Pretty excited to bring you what we've got lined up. We've put a few videos together, some stuff that I've made in the past, some other fresh things, a couple of things that I think that'll just be fun to watch and while they're away from Parliament for a couple of weeks. These guys have it easy, man. They worked 1 week in March, right? And then nothing. So anyhow, we're just going to jump in. We're going to kick it off with Pierre Poilievre because people like to watch Pierre. But this is a funny video to start off. He seems really awkward in this one. Like, he usually comes across as very authentic and sincere, but in this one, it feels a little staged. I think he's wearing makeup. Anyway, we're going to jump straight into that, and then we're just going to let it roll. So let's jump right in, get going. Kicking it off with Pierre Poilievre being strange. It's a way that I haven't seen him many times. Here, let's jump in, get it going.
Every spring, Hindus and Indians from all walks of life celebrate Holi, the festival of colors. Recognized around the world for its inspirational spirit of joy, Holi is a time for giving thanks and coming together. It reminds us that just as winter must always give way to spring, we can overcome the challenges we face today. The brightness of Holi brings us comfort in dark times. When things feel broken, it reminds us that there is always a reason to smile. On behalf of Canada's common sense conservatives,
smile, man.
Happy Holi, Holi High.
Our Conservative team has been hard at work to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime in Ottawa. And this past week, we've been focusing on spiking the hike, the April 1st carbon tax hike that is coming as a result of this NDP Liberal government. We know life already costs more. Their inflationary deficits are driving up the cost of living, and their carbon tax is making essentials like gas, groceries, and home heating out of reach for many. On a day like this in Thunder Bay, we know that we need our home heating very much.
Bud?
And Conservatives are fighting to stop this carbon tax hike that's coming on April 1st. 23% is going to be the carbon tax hike, and we gave the NDP and Liberal MPs many opportunities to vote against that hike. And each and every time they banded together to vote against our common sense plan and vote on hiking taxes on hardworking people in Thunder Bay, Rainy River, and across Northern Ontario. And that's why we move forward on a non-confidence motion to force a carbon tax election so that Canadians can decide whether they want to go down the path of higher taxes with the NDP and Liberal coalition,
hey, Bud, what's
or
up,
vote
man?
for Pierre Poilievre and our common sense Conservative plan to axe the tax. And of course, the NDP bailed out the Liberals again in that confidence motion. And that's why we're here today, braving the elements with some great supporters here in Thunder Bay at Marcus Pulowski's office, calling on Mr. Pulowski to stand up, to speak out, and call for this carbon tax hike to be stopped on April 1st. Canadians can't afford it, people in Thunder Bay can't afford it, and Conservatives are going to axe the tax.
All right, Eric Malilo's, I think, maybe one of the youngest members of Parliament. This is Stephen
I've been invited
Ellis.
to Cape Breton by my great friends who want to axe the tax. Why do they want to axe the tax? Because they're priced out of their own lives. Here in Cape Breton, we know that the average cost of a house has gone up to $245,000. That cost has doubled in the last 8 years.
Hey,
The
Cooney,
cost
what's
of
up?
rent here in Cape Breton is around $1,500. Maybe it's a little bit better than the $2,000 it costs in Halifax to buy a house. Friends, the punishment is not over, because those of you who have a mortgage to renew, mortgage rates are still up. And the rates, when Prime Minister Trudeau told you that rates were going to stay low forever, your cost to pay for your mortgage is going to double.
I kind of like Steve Ellis.
Historically, the amount of time that we could have paid for a mortgage, now Canadians are saving for a down
Something in his
payment.
delivery is
Wonderful
interesting.
people in Cape Breton giving us a hand today to understand that 2 million Canadians,
What's up, Grimes?
because
How
of
are
the
you?
punishing carbon tax, are going to a food bank every month. At the Clay Speed Food Bank, the usage in the last year has gone up 89%, not 8 to 9%, 89%. As everyone knows, if you tax the farmer that grows the food, you tax the trucker who ships the food. Those bring people here who have to buy the food, they have to pay more as well. 7 out of 10 Canadians
Hi, Cicely,
are
what's
done
up? How are you?
with the
I think I
carbon
missed
tax.
you yesterday.
They want us
Sorry
to
about
tax. 7 out of 10 premiers have told the Prime Minister to axe the tax. Our Premier Tim Houston has said that the tax is misguided and unfair. He has told the Prime Minister to cancel the tax before any more financial damage is done to Nova Scotians. This is an unfair and punishing tax. And we, as Canada's Conservatives, will axe the tax. Every MLA in Nova Scotia voted unanimously to tell their members of Parliament to axe the tax. Only 3 did. All of us Conservative members of Parliament in Nova Scotia voted to cancel the tax. Your local member of Parliament, who is a Liberal, voted with the NDP Liberal coalition to continue the carbon tax. My friends, the time has come. The April Fool's Day joke is no joke. Your carbon tax is going to go up again 23%. Canada's Conservatives will axe the tax so that we can all live our lives as we choose here in rural Canada and have the way of life that we want to have. So thank you for inviting me to Cape Breton and axe the carbon tax.
All right, Steve Ellis, right? Who's up next? What do we have next?
Action on the price on pollution? We had 3, Mr. Speaker, and we
dose
won
of
them all.
Trudeau.
Wow. Then he shouldn't be afraid to have one more. Housing costs. He sent 2 million people lining up at food banks, 8,000 joining a Facebook group learning how they can eat a meal out of a dumpster. And now his best solution is to hike the tax on their heat, on their homes, on their fuel, on their food. If he really believes in it, why doesn't he call a carbon tax election now?
It's a real pleasure and honor to be here with Jagmeet.
This is a speech by Jagmeet.
As mentioned, my name is Lisa Roberts. I am nominated to run in the next federal election for the NDP in Halifax.
I think it was yesterday morning.
I was also previously an MLA in the Nova Scotia NDP caucus and served as housing critic for most of my time in the provincial legislature between 2016 and 2021. In that time and since that time, here in Halifax, we have heard countless stories of how hard, even impossible, it is to find an affordable place to rent. And many people who are renters and who do have currently an affordable and safe and adequate home are worried because they see the stories that keep popping up with incredible frequency of buildings being sold and all of the current tenants or many of the current tenants being renovicted. Sometimes because the properties are actually old and actually need major renovations. In some cases, because it's just really convenient for the landowner and for the property owner to move out folks who used to rent at low income, who used to rent at affordable rent, and reposition that building to make much more profit. Having a decent and affordable place to live is not a luxury. It is an absolute necessity. And right now in Halifax, 1-bedrooms are renting for approaching $2,000 a month. That is up $500 since 2021. And since the Liberals have been in power, we have lost 25% of our affordable housing stock. That's more than 8,000 homes, 8,140 homes that used to be affordable in Halifax, where people could actually live. In February, we had another case in Dartmouth where an entire building was renovicted, resulting in the loss of 9 affordable homes. And renters deserve and they need so much
Bonnie,
better.
how are you? Good morning.
New Democrats want to ensure that affordable homes are there to give people options and to make our communities healthy and affordable. Today, I'm really glad to introduce someone who has a plan to make things better for renters, someone who's out there for Canadians and for our families, and particularly for renters. Jagmeet Singh.
Oh God,
Thanks
here he
so much,
comes.
Lisa. We are so
Here
lucky
comes
to
a load
have
of crap.
Lisa Roberts, who I'll just ask to stand right beside me for the rest of the conference, who's fighting for you here in Halifax. Really proud to have Lisa Roberts as our candidate here in Halifax. As Lisa said, we got to protect renters. We're up against such a serious challenge in our country. Renters are worried they're going to lose their place. They're worried that the rent's going to go up. So we want to protect renters. We want to bring rents down. And what are we up against? We're up against a housing market which has been designed to make a rich investor rich. It's really worked well if you got lots of money, but does not work if you're an everyday family. It just doesn't work for you. And that is not by chance, it's by design. It's been designed that way by liberals and conservatives who've made the laws, who have benefited rich investors. And now we know, after almost 9 years of the liberals, things have gotten worse. Things have gotten worse because they've not made this a priority. They've not made it something that they've taken seriously to make sure people can afford a home, to make sure renters can stay in their home. That's not been their priority. And as Lisa laid out, rents have gone up, the cost of housing has gone up, and people are worried. People are afraid. It's getting harder and harder. So we've got to come up with some solutions. We know for every one affordable home that's built, we're losing 11. That is a losing battle. And we know that the liberals have made things worse, and the conservatives are going to do even worse than that. Because we know that what the conservatives are about. We know that Pierre Poilievre is about. His closest advisors, his closest friends are all lobbyists for big corporations, including big developers. He loves that the way the housing markets work. He wants to continue for it to work the same way. He is taking money from big developers. He wants to continue to see money go to big developers. We've seen what liberals have done, or what conservatives have done when they're in power. We've seen in Ontario, the conservative premier there wanted to sell off public land to billionaire developers, selling them billions of dollars of public land. We know what conservatives do. Pierre Poilievre's chief advisor is a lobbyist for a real estate firm. We know that his campaign director is a lobbyist for one of the largest corporate grocery chains. This is a party directly connected to the powerful corporate groups and interests in our country, and they're not going to make things more affordable. So that's why New Democrats are stepping up for you. And one of the things we want to do is we want to protect renters by putting in place a renters protection fund. I just met with a number of community advocates talking about nonprofit housing and how important it is. If we want to build homes that are affordable, we've got to actually make that a priority. I've spoken with builders, and they say very frankly, we got to buy the land at the going rate of the land. We got to build at the going rates for building. We got to use the going rates for buying the materials. If we build, we're going to build more of the same that you see out there. We're going to build more of the condos that you see, more of the houses that you see. That's not going to make life more affordable for you. What we're talking about is let's make it serious that we're going to prioritize renters. So let's protect renters from being rent evicted, which we know is happening again and again. Let's bring down rents. So our Renters Protection Fund would allow not-for-profit groups like the ones that we just met to purchase buildings before they get bought up by rich investors who want to just flip it and make more profit. Let's allow local community groups to buy those buildings and keep them affordable so that people can stay in their homes. And let's bring down the rent. That's what our plan is. A renters protection fund for you and your families to protect renters, to bring down rents, to keep people safe in their homes. While the liberals have let you down, they're out of touch, and the conservatives want to sell off land to rich developers and make them richer and make you even worse off. We're fighting for you. We're fighting for people. And with Lisa Roberts as your local member of parliament, you can count on New Democrats to constantly be on your side and fight for you to build that affordable future that we know is possible. Thanks so much for being here. I'm going to do that again in French, and then look forward to your questions. We're not going to do the French part, guys. Donc, c'est clair, on est dans une crise du logement. Se
sont joints à nous via de suivre. Aucune question.
Sorry, guys, the French is going to clean itself up.
All right, so this concludes our press conference. Ceci conclut notre conférence de presse. Merci beaucoup.
Hello, Francine. How are you?
I want to say a great thank you again to the folks for joining us, the media that's here. I appreciate that. Again, big thanks to Lisa Roberts and all the housing advocates that were here. Thank you for your great work. Count on us to continue to fight for you. Thanks so much.
All right, who do we have up next? What do we have?
Kalispera sas.
Oh, no, guys.
Ronya Pola.
I could go on, but I'm limited. Your Eminence, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much for your words tonight, for being here, for your leadership within the community. We spent much of yesterday together in Montreal at the Greek parade in the heart of my riding, and I have to say, as always, your counsel and your advice to me was most appreciated. He's been giving me good advice since before I was in politics, and turned out okay. I followed him most of the time, so we're doing well. But your leadership within the community,
Hello, Sheila,
the stories you told me of my father, but also the impact you've had on shaping not just the strength of the Greek community in Canada, in Toronto, but also in Canada is significant. So thank you for everything you do, Your Eminence.
Can't count all those.
Vashi, it's great to see you here. I know in her day job, her job is to ask the tough questions and challenge democratic leaders and push us on making sure we're giving the right answers to Canadians. But every single day you wear your pride as a Greek Canadian on your sleeve, and it's wonderful to see a Greek Canadian excelling at the highest levels of media and journalism. And a reminder of how important the Hellenic values are to the concept of democracy. But I'll come back to that in a little later. But it's great to see you, Vashi. And Kyriakos, my friend, thank you. Thank you for being the first Prime Minister in over 40 years of Greece to come to Canada. The last time it happened...
Here comes some bullshit, guys. Get ready.
I won't say anything more, but it took a Trudeau the last time to bring the Prime Minister over, and it's a real pleasure to continue in that family tradition. I have to say, I got to spend the day with him yesterday in not just in my hometown of Montreal, but in my riding of Montreal. Curiosity, how many members of the Greek Canadian community here tonight trace their path through Montreal? Yeah. I know there's a deep connection between the Hellenic community in Montreal and the one here in the GTA, and it's always a pleasure to be able to make sure that we're celebrating strongly in both communities. The Independence Day parade yesterday was wonderful with the Prime Minister. A few years ago, during the COVID challenges, he actually zoomed in for a 200th anniversary celebration of the Greek Independence Day. And of course, at the end of that, as one does, I said, this is wonderful to do it on Zoom, but you should really come here in person. He said, yes, I will. And then when I saw him the very next time at the next international summit, he said, so when do I get to come to Canada? And he was like, it wasn't just a politician's word. Here he is. He was serious about coming back to Canada. And I have to say, the friendship that we've been able to develop over the past years, being so aligned on so many big issues. Kyriakos was just in Ukraine a few weeks ago. I was there a couple of weeks earlier, where we know that standing up for the rules-based order, standing up for the rights of people to choose their own future, standing up against those who would destabilize the rule of law and international law is something that we both agree for and we will all continue to stand on. So thank you, Kyriakos, for that. We connected as well on the fact that there is a tremendous pride for both of us to see how extraordinarily vibrant and dynamic the Hellenic Canadian community is. 270,000 people from coast to coast to coast contributing in every way to this country is truly an extraordinary thing. Thank you for everything that you do every day. Yesterday in Montreal, we got to go around a number of small businesses, a number of Greek community leaders were there, and really demonstrating to him how engaged and active and contributing not just within the community, but across all levels of Canadian society and the economy is a real pride in seeing how well this community is flourishing, but also how strongly proud this community remains of its roots is exceptional. exceptional. The amount of conversations you had in Greek, the amount of conversations you had also in French in Montreal really highlights just how both integrated and grounded in your Hellenic identity this community is, and it's a real inspiration to all Canadians. We connect on issues of growing the economy, issues of investing in a strong future. The turnaround that Prime Minister Mitsotakis has been responsible for in Greece is nothing short of miraculous. You have led through some very, very challenging times, but to see Greece do so incredibly well is a real credit to your leadership. Even as the world goes through challenging economic times, there are always good news in different places for families. At the same time as we're facing similar challenges, both last summer, Greece and Canada faced historically bad wildfires, and we come together not just to support each other in fighting those wildfires and fighting against climate change, but on a concrete agreement that we signed yesterday, where Greece will be purchasing 7 firefighting planes that will be built right here in Canada. It's another way of us working together as we always have. They're updating their fleet. They've been flying Canadian water bombers for close to 50 years. So it's great to be able to continue to invest as we move forward. And on the international stage, whether it's as NATO allies, whether it's as fellow democracies, we continue to step up as partners. We're seeing tremendous investments by Canadians into Greece, but also by Greeks into Canada. The investments, particularly in renewables in southern Alberta, is a remarkable story. There are so many more things we can do together as countries that it is great to be connecting here. But we also have to reflect on the fact that we are in extraordinarily challenging times, not just here in Canada, but all around the world, where inflation, where climate change, where the after effects still of the pandemic, where geopolitical destabilization, whether it's wars and conflicts around the world, let's be honest, are throwing everyone for a little bit of a loop. And right now, we're seeing, because of all the pressures everyone is under, a challenge to our democracies, a backsliding of democracies in every corner of the world as people are exploiting fear and anger and extreme nationalism and populism to distract from the solutions we need to put forward to very, very real problems we're facing. And I can't be with the Hellenic community without reflecting on the fact that you know well, more than just about anyone else, having been the birthplace of democracy, that democracy didn't happen by accident. It doesn't continue without effort. And that effort is one that each and every one of us need to make as active, engaged citizens, taking an interest in what's happening in our communities, what's an interest in happening, what's happening in our country, and indeed around the world. And I know with the conversations that are being had about how the Hellenic community is so proud of its heritage, and Prime Minister Mitsotakis will be encouraging you to engage as well in the politics back home. And I think it's a good idea, because how we all step up to actively be part of making those tough decisions that build a better world is, quite frankly, what this community has been able to do for decades here in Canada, and making sure that your voice is resonating around the world, bringing more of these Greek values, more of these Canadian values to bear on the solutions the world is facing, leaves me very, very optimistic for the future. So it is an incredible pleasure for me to be able to be here with you all tonight, and mostly to welcome my good friend, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, Prime Minister of Greece. Zito Ialadas! Zito Kalalas! Last night I introduced him. This time you have.
Got it. I have the honor this time. Thank you, Prime Minister Trudeau. I think the Prime Minister's Greek is better than mine. My goodness. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce Prime Minister Mitsotakis and for the Prime Minister to address us in the audience.
Hello, M. Hobbs. What's up?
Thank you. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Χρόνια πολλά.
All right, guys, we're not going to suffer through this too long.
Your Eminence, Σεβασμιότατε, thank you so much for your inspiring words, but thank you for the leadership you have provided to the Greek-Canadian community. Your journey truly has been remarkable. Thank you so much for everything you've done. And Vasiliki, thank you for hosting this event. And Justin, you were right, because I had an opportunity to give a short interview, and she certainly treated me with the necessary firmness. There were no easy questions, but you were right, Justin, when you pointed out that you wear your Greek-Canadian heritage very proudly on your sleeve, as all of you do. So thank you so much for hosting today's event. And to my good friend, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, you're right to point out that it was your father who brought over to Canada the last Greek Prime Minister. It was just the wrong Prime Minister. He should have brought over Konstantinos Mitsotakis and not Andreas Papandreou. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be with you here today to celebrate Independence Day. And indeed, it is the first time that I have decided to celebrate Greek National Independence Day outside Greece. Normally, I'm in Athens at the big military parade, but this year I decided to make an exception. I decided to be with you here in Canada, and boy, was this the right decision. And indeed, this is an important day for Greeks, but it is also, I think, an important day for all freedom-fighting nations, because it is probably worthwhile reflecting exactly what happened 203 years ago when the Greek nation rose up against the all-powerful Ottoman Empire and against all odds managed to win its freedom. And this freedom it has defended for more than 2 centuries, and through the ebbs and flows of history, through triumphs and disasters, Greece has progressed. It has moved in the right direction. It was always, with Canada, on the right side of history. And part of our history is also the history of emigration. It is the history of those Greeks in difficult times, your parents, your grandfathers, who decided to leave Greece in search of a better future. And many of those decided to make Canada their second home. And I think they chose wisely, because you have indeed progressed, you have become part of this great nation, but you have also kept alive your Greek heritage, your regional heritage. It is such a pleasure to be able to see all the dancers with all their regional costumes. And yesterday, at this lovely parade in Montreal, I saw a vibrant Greek community, proud of its heritage, but also proud of being Canadian. And what Canada has done to incorporate not just the Greek community, but all national communities into this beautiful country, while making sure that they maintain their national heritage, cherish their roots, celebrate their history, is truly a remarkable story. So I pay tribute to all of those who are present here today, who keep Greece in your heart, but sing, both national anthems with the same vigor and with the same enthusiasm. Yours is truly a remarkable.
Jump into the next video.
And
that's what the poll, 75%.
And when I reflect on the progress that Greece has recently made, I should point out that we also went through a very difficult period during the second decade of the 21st century, when essentially the country went bankrupt. It had to go through multiple bailout programs. It was considered by many, and for many years, the black sheep of Europe. And when we took over, we had a very clear plan in 2019 to restore sustainable growth, to create jobs, to lower taxes, to make Greece an investor-friendly country. And I think to a great extent we have succeeded in that mission. But what is probably most important for me,
all right, guys, we're going to jump out.
What is probably most important than me, and this means more than all the statistics.
Hey everybody, what's up? Ehren here, Question Period Canada. Today we're going to be taking a look at the role of the Speaker of the House, Greg Fergus, the current Speaker, who's disrupting everything, as you're aware. That's why you're here. We're going to take a look at where Greg came from, how he came into the position, and what's been changing since he's been filling the role. It's been terrible. Let's take a peek. In Canada, it's the Speaker's responsibility to manage the House of Commons and supervise its staff. It's also the Speaker's duty to act as a liaison with the Senate and the Crown. They are to rule over the House and have the government answer questions during the question period, as well as keep decorum within the House. The Speaker of the House receives a salary of $275,000, $185,000 for being an MP, they are members of Parliament, they're elected, and another $90,000 for being the Speaker of the House, for filling that role. Along with the extra cash, the Speaker has use of the small apartment in the House of Commons and an official residence, the farm, which is owned by the federal government. The duties of the House Speaker are managing the 2,000 employees of Parliament Hill, also the Parliamentary Protective Services and the RCMP. He oversees all of that. He has a budget of almost $500 million. That's a lot of money. Our current House Speaker is Greg Fergus, and he's a disaster. He seemed really great at first. He's nice looking, he's handsome, he's well spoken, but man oh man, this guy's weird. The House Speaker is elected by the members of Parliament. They vote for who they want to be the House Speaker, so Greg was elected. And so the MPs elected Greg Christophe Fergus to the position of House Speaker. He was an MP from the Hull-Almer area, still is, and he's been in that position since the 2015 federal election. Before that, he held portfolios as a parliamentary secretary. Before his election to Parliament, Fergus worked as a political staffer. So I didn't know what to think of Greg at first. He's strange, he's awkward, but it didn't take long to realize that he was trying to take control of the floor. Let's take a peek.
Dear colleagues, please, it's important for one person to speak at a time, and that person is the one recognized by the Speaker. I will ask the Parliamentary Secretary to restart her answer from the top.
So that was only day one. It gets out of hand very quickly. It goes off the rails shortly thereafter. Let's take a peek at that, because it does go out of hand. He tries to give this speech. Here, it's awkward. It's weird.
As promised before the break week, the Speaker would like to make a statement about order and decorum in the House.
Après 8 ans de ce gouvernement, le taux d'inflation.
After 8 years with this government, inflation is the highest it's ever been in Quebec.
Even in this wide shot, you can see Andrew Scheer go and grab the rule book because he knows something's up. So it's time for question period to start, and Greg said that he's got this speech to deliver first, but it's time for question period, so Poilievre tries to start, but Greg interrupts him. You can see Andrew Scheer run up to grab the book of rules. He used to be the House Speaker as well.
The Honourable Member, you'll have an opportunity to start with oral questions once I just make this statement to the House. Question period will follow.
Watch this. Greg just
Question period.
turns him off. He plays with the buttons. See that? So it looks like the MPs just want to start question period. That's what they're supposed to do at this time of day, but Greg wants to give this speech. He's insisting on it. Playing with his button turns him back on. See that?
Jeremy? May I ask the Honourable Member, please, to take his seat for a moment while I consult with the table.
I bet Greg is a nice fella, but terrible to work with. Imagine what he's been doing to these guys. So awkward. So while he's consulting with his table, the Conservatives are consulting too. Andrew Scheer used to be the Speaker of the House. He knows the rules. He's consulting with Poilievre. He's just a weird person, everyone. Just weird.
The Speaker
It's okay to
has
be
the
weird.
choice as to when to start question period. There will be a full question period that will follow after this declaration from the Speaker.
Not when your House Speaker.
It's important for us to make this declaration.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but it gets more interesting from here. Keep watching. How totalitarian is that? Speaking about himself in third person, Mr. Speaker can do this. Andrew Scheer is fed up. He puts in a point of order. Here it comes.
Point of order. The Honourable House Leader from the Opposition.
Just like to remind the Chair of Standing Order 5A, time for statements by members, oral questions, orders of the day. At 2 p.m. on Mondays, not later than 2:15 p.m., as the case may be, oral questions shall be taken up. Not may be taken up, shall be taken up. It's well past 2:15, Mr. Speaker.
So it's 2:15 and questions shall be taken up at 2:15. Let's see how Fergus reacts.
After consultation with the table, it is important for members to understand that we have dérogé de cette habitude de commencer.
That we have moved away from starting exactly on time.
Le président, la présidence va faire cette déclaration.
The Speaker will make a statement. It's not my intention to make this a habit. But according to the standing orders, I do have the opportunity of starting oral questions after my statement.
The honourable member from Regina.
Did you hear somebody heckle? Let the players play? But Greg is insisting on giving this speech. Andrew Scheer is trying to set him straight.
The honourable member from Regina.
The Speaker ought to know when rules are not followed, when there is a derogation from a rule, when that is pointed out to the Speaker then enforces the rules. These standing orders are the property of the House. It's up to the House to decide when we're not going to follow a rule or when we're going to change a rule. This is a standing order that the House has adopted. You are a servant of the House. You should follow the standing order.
So Andrew Scheer is a braver man than I am. He called Greg Fergus a servant, put him in his place. Let's see how Greg reacts. Hey Vikram, what's up, man? How are you?
I'd like to thank the honourable member from Regina Capel for pointing out the standing orders, and indeed he is correct. There are written standing orders. However, there is a long tradition in this House that the Speaker has the ability to making sure. Can I ask the honourable member to please allow me to finish as I have the floor at this time? I'll be happy to recognize the honourable member for a point of order. It is really important that we understand that the Speaker does have this ability to make a statement. We will have full oral questions at the end of this statement from the Speaker. It is an important message, which I think members would appreciate hearing, because it gives an indication as to how the Speaker is going to be proceeding in the months and years to follow. Colleagues,
as promised before the constituency week,
ordered the honourable member from Carleton.
Every day in this.
So is that what we're doing here, Greg Fergus? We're enforcing the rules by breaking the rules? That's weird. Really weird. Poilievre's had enough. You can see that he stood up there. He's coming back for more.
The honourable member from Carleton.
Every day in this House, the opposition has the occasion to respond to the actions of and hold the government accountable for its actions on behalf of Canadians. That happens at 2:15 every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That is not a may, that is not a possible, that is a shall. There is nothing in the clause that creates question period in the standing orders that allows the Speaker to arbitrarily change the time in order to give a speech. I will note that the Speaker has a plethora of occasions to stand on his feet and make any point he wants or any declaration he likes. He does not need to do it in the middle of the sacred period during which we hold the government to account. Now I see, no, if I'm Mr. Speaker, if I may, this is the first time in all of my years here that I have seen a speaker interrupt question period to make a speech. I've never seen it. I've never seen it. And I furthermore, the fact that you've risen to your feet in order to impose apparently a series of guidelines that are not approved by the Board of the Internal Economy or voted on by the House of Commons, and that you're doing it in violation of one of the existing rules that is already in place, suggests a very serious and unusual departure from the normal way in which Parliament exists. The government is here to serve Parliament, not the other way around. We ask that you allow us to proceed with question period and you make your statement afterwards.
So Poilievre made some great points. He calmly told them that this is unseen and unheard of, like what Greg's doing. How do you think Fergus will react?
I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Carleton for his intervention. I would like to inform the House, though, this is not the first time that the Speaker has interrupted the proceedings to make a statement from the Chair between the point of SO31s and oral questions.
He goes on a ramble here. Stay with it, though.
Colleagues,
it's so long, it's so awkward.
This very clearly. My immediate predecessor, for example,
you have to watch.
Has done this at least on 2 occasions. It has also been done. It also has been done by speakers in the past. I'm going to continue with this statement. I think it's important for all
members. As you
know,
no one is listening.
Like
no one.
The member from Carleton and all members that there are going to be no new standing orders that would require the approval of you members. But we're talking about. I invite you to listen to this statement.
Imagine he's lecturing.
To listen to this statement in order to be able to improve order and decorum in this
he's
House.
A crackpot. He's a crackpot. Keep watching. So Greg says that he can break the rules because people before him have broken the rules. That's a weird thing for a new speaker to be saying. Anyhow, he's going to give this rousing speech. Let's, I guess, listen to some of that.
As promised before the constituency week.
Bear with us.
The chair would like to make a statement on order and decorum in the House.
It gets better, I
swear. In a very simple way. Order and decorum are signs of respect for each other.
Hang on.
And for the institution. Respect, which is necessary for productive debate in a deliberative assembly.
He's just so weird. I know. Hang on.
It is, in fact, fundamental to Parliament's ability to fulfill its constitutional role.
I did to stand for Speaker because in the 8 years that I've been a member,
oh my God,
prior to that as a keen follower of parliamentary proceedings, I've
he
noticed
keeps talking.
In collective decorum in this place. It is important.
You can hear them not agreeing at all.
It's not inevitable. It is not a natural outgrowth of the advent of social media.
But he keeps talking. Stay tuned. It does get better.
I suspected other members.
It comes back on him.
And during the many discussions that I held recently with members from all sides of the House,
he keeps talking.
I confirmed this feeling. Decorum and disorder
won't stop.
Was the one issue that was most often mentioned to me in the one-on-one exchanges that I had, and not just in passing.
Oh my Lord,
Greg. Most importantly of all, members felt that bad behavior dishonors not only ourselves as elected members of Parliament, but also dishonors Canadian
Gotta be
democracy.
done soon. We'll post the speech in another video. We're not going to make you watch it here. It's 15 minutes. It's wild and crazy. It's about decorum, being nice to each other, doing unto others as done unto you. But that's not Canadian politics, guys. That's not it at all. It hasn't been the tradition. He's trying something different, and the effects in days to come were felt. Like, it's changing the flow of question period. He's disruptive. It's awful. It's led to things like this.
Before I have the Honourable Minister answer the question, I just want to remind all members it's important not to do indirectly what you can't do directly. As the Honourable Minister.
He's like this every 5 minutes, guys. Like, even less. Every 3 minutes, he's flipping out. Always.
Again, I ask all members, please, if you do not have the floor, to refrain from speaking so that we can hear the question and we can hear the answer. The Honourable Minister.
Sit down, shut up. Imagine somebody is going to have to say that to Greg Fergus.
Colleagues, before I pass on to the Parliamentary Secretary to answer the question, I'd like to remind all members, and out of profound respect to the position and the office of the Leader of the Opposition, I again want to remind all members to please take a look at the statement which I made regarding decorum in the House in terms of understanding what all members have to do in terms of their work.
So there's some clips of him just disrupting the flow of question period, telling everybody to be nice, be quiet, speak when spoken to. It's ridiculous. It's not the way Canadian politics is supposed to be. It's disruptive. And it leads to this. It finally manifests this way on Wednesday. They're fed up, everybody. They're getting rowdy. Somebody actually says, sit down and shut up. They yell it.
It is so
awkward
important.
And funny. He puts his hands down.
Order.
Sit down and shut up.
It is important.
It's
once
hysterical.
again,
So
to
weird.
not call in.
Sit down, speaker it up.
He just
Can I
keeps
ask
going.
the member, please. From Surrey to please, Surrey Newton, to please allow me to continue.
Decorum.
Colleagues, I ask all members to please exercise discretion. These are the things which you all raised with me and others in terms of improving the discretion. So I'm going to ask the Honourable Leader of the colleagues.
It's weird, guys.
Colleagues.
He should be sit down.
May I ask all colleagues, excuse me, colleagues.
Weird.
Colleagues, temperatures are running hot. Temperatures are running hot today. If I could ask all members, please, to sit down. May I ask all members to respectfully sit down, please?
All members.
May I ask all members to respectfully sit down until I recognize them to speak? Please.
So weird. Just hand gestures. Oh, man.
Colleagues.
Come on.
Colleagues.
Come on. He's going to have to give in, right? He will.
Colleagues.
I hope. Come on, sit down.
The honourable member, the honourable leader of the opposition.
So how awkward was that? That went on for over a minute. Sit down and shut up. Imagine having somebody yell that at you 15 feet away when you're supposed to be the boss. Everybody's wound up in the House, all sides. Everybody's sour about him. And so we're going to wrap up the video, guys. We've reviewed what the roles of the House Speaker are, who Greg Fergus is, and the trouble that he's making in the House. All sides are wound up, fed up, tired of him. Those guys don't want to be told what to do. They're politicians. They make their own rules. I hope you liked the video. My name's Ehren. This is Question Period Canada. We're having fun here with Canadian politics, trying to bring entertainment and information to the audience. That's it. We're out for now. We'll catch you next time. Hey everybody, what's up? Just Ehren right here, question period Canada. How do you feel about Trudeau? Not very good, right? How do you feel about Trudeau taking $84,000 gift vacations and not declaring it to Canadians, just riding the track? I'm fed up with it. This guy's gotta go. You guys know Larry Brock. He's the kingpin. An MP from Ontario, used to be a big shot lawyer. He doesn't like Trudeau's actions either and is fed up with these vacations and hiding behind the curtain. Trudeau has to go. Larry Brock is going to explain right here the issues that he has with Trudeau recently. It's very interesting. Larry Brock is the kingpin. Trudeau better stay on the right side of the kingpin. He's not going to let this stuff go. This terrible behavior, poor choice making, just not helping Canadians. Enough is enough. Brock is going to explain why Trudeau has to go.
Damn off after that. Go ahead, Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to start at the outset by wishing all my colleagues a Happy New Year. I hope that everyone had an enjoyable, relaxing time away from the Hill. A few of us, unfortunately, are back earlier than we anticipated, but this is an important issue, not only for parliamentarians, but it's an important issue for Canadians. As my colleague, Mr. Barrett, has indicated, 2024 has not started off on a new footing. It's essentially the same sort of issues that Canadians are dealing with in 2023 and 2022, and that's the issue of affordability. I know personally many members of my constituency who wrote to me and expressed their astonishment that how tone deaf this Prime Minister and this Liberal government was in light of all of the issues that Canadians are facing, that he would find it appropriate to accept an $84,000 gift for an extremely extravagant holiday in Jamaica. I think we are all of the same belief, and I believe all Canadians are of the same belief, Mr. Chair, that the Prime Minister is indeed worthy of a vacation. He is indeed worthy of spending quality time with his family. He was born of privilege. He maintains a lifestyle of privilege. It's now no shock to anyone here at this committee or in this House or across Canada that he is well connected with terms of friends and other associates around the world, and he probably enjoys staying at locations that offer some of the finer things in life. We don't begrudge that as a starting point. What we do begrudge is how a particular issue such as this has blown up to such an extent that it now has the makings of a scandal. This was a really non-issue from the get-go. If the Prime Minister and his office were completely transparent as to who sourced this particular vacation, how it was communicated to the Prime Minister, all the terms associated with he accepting the offer to stay at this luxurious villa, had he been upfront with Parliament, had he been upfront with Canadians right from the outset, I don't think we'd be here today. But the Prime Minister and his office have compounded this particular issue as such that we as parliamentarians are here asking for clarification. And you know, Mr. Chair, this isn't a one-off. This is a pattern of conduct with this Prime Minister and his office to mislead Canadians. Setting aside the controversy surrounding his trip to the Aga Khan Island and how he was found guilty of breaching the ethic guidelines, he promised Canadians in the House that he would do better, that he would communicate in advance with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner and be upfront, because the hallmark of the Trudeau brand, the hallmark of the Trudeau government is transparency. That's what he promised Canadians during the 2015 general election. You vote for me, you will have the most open, transparent, and accountable government this country has ever seen. Has that happened, Mr. Chair? Absolutely not. I really don't know if anyone on the Liberal bench, and certainly the Prime Minister, even understand the definition of transparency. But most recently, the government has shuffled some positions. One of the shuffling of positions was the House Leader, the government House Leader, who is now occupying that position by the name of Steve McKinnon. Steve McKinnon was asked by the press with respect to this vacation. He indicated as follows. The Prime Minister, and this is a quote, the Prime Minister followed all the rules and in fact got his travel plans pre-approved by the Commissioner. We know that's a lie. It's misleading. It was deliberate. It was intentional on Mr. McKinnon's part to mislead Canadians. Because now we know that that office, the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner, does not pre-approve and give permission to vacation. The issue is whether or not the form of a gift qualifies as an acceptable one under the Act. To clarify, he says, the office, no, I'm sorry, that's the quote from the Ethics Commissioner. But he went on in a different interview, this is Steve McKinnon, the government House Leader, and it said as follows. I think Canadians don't want to deny the Prime Minister the ability to take a Christmas vacation with his family, and that's what he did. McKinnon told reporters last week, all of the rules have been followed, and the law has, as one of its fundamental pillars, transparency, which is, of course, the reason why we're discussing this today. The Prime Minister has acted transparently. Are we to accept the House Leader's word for that? I think that would be negligent. I don't think we'd be doing our job as His Majesty's loyal opposition to accept that at face value in light of the fact that the office has since rebutted the position taken by the Prime Minister and his office that this was pre-approved. There's a lot of smoke here, Mr. Chair, and I'm sure there is a fire that's burning, Mr. Chair, that we need to find out its source. As I indicated, this is not a one-off. It is a series of missteps by this government. I talked about the Aga Khan vacation. We then had the dress-up clown show in India. We then had the issue surrounding the very first Truth and Reconciliation Day. Again, one of the hallmarks of the Trudeau brand and our Prime Minister in the 2015 election was his pronouncement that there was no other relationship that was more important to Canada than its relationship with Indigenous Canadians. He created the very first Truth and Reconciliation Day after the discovery of the unmarked graves in Kamloops. This was an important milestone in the history of this country in an effort to broker reconciliation between non-Indigenous and Indigenous alike. What did the Prime Minister do? The Prime Minister instructed his office to lie to Canadians to say that he was in Canada engaging in private meetings, when in fact, some sleuths in the Canadian public were able to track his flight and realize he wasn't in Ottawa. He was en route to BC to take a surfing vacation.
Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair.
Does anybody that's watching have any issues with the case that Larry Brock made, the questions he asked, the things he said? I highly doubt it. The Liberals do. They send in this old bag of wind, Pandamoff, to make a point of order. It's preposterous and weak. It's a bad look for the Liberals, so we want to show Canadians.
Ms. Damoff, on your point of order, and as it relates to the standing orders, I'd like to just some clarification on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, twice now the member has said that the Prime Minister lied, and I think we all know that that is not allowed under parliamentary rules. So I just wondered if you could remind him that he he can't say that the Prime Minister lied. If that could just, you could remind the honourable member of that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Damoff. I'm going to ask Mr. Brock just to be a little more judicious in his words. Thank you.
So is that the deal? Trudeau's allowed to tell a lie, but we can't call it that because you're not supposed to call an MP a liar, even if they have a history of telling big, bad, black lies. 2 Canadians.
Honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday Liberal-appointed senators voted to gut common sense Conservative Bill C-234, an action that betrays farmers. For the last decade, this PM has repeatedly made the claim that the Senate and those he appoints to it are independent, yet this weekend proved otherwise. He and his Socialist Environment Minister were busy employing a campaign of bullying and pressure to force his senators to kill this needed carbon tax carve-out. The carbon tax is punishing the farmers who produce the food and the folks that need it. Will this Prime Minister finally just listen to Canadians and axe his carbon tax?
It's a rare occasion, but Trudeau was in the House today, and the question was for Trudeau. Kirk was asking him, but that's not who answers. Check out who does.
Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I think my honourable colleague is well aware the other place makes a decision on their own. We do not. The Conservative Party of Canada has senators in their caucus. The Conservative Party of Canada does not have a policy or a plan for the environment. But I can assure my honourable colleague that we do have a plan for the environment, and that's why we're able to make an investment of $1.5 billion to help farmers, processors reduce their environmental footprint. Mr. Speaker, we have and will continue to support our farmers and ranchers in this country.
I just want to say, I mean, as I said, the Honourable Minister sits right here. I can barely hear him. So let's try to keep the sound down.
Lawrence McCauley is 77 years old. The question Kirk was asking was for Trudeau. He's pissed that Trudeau wouldn't answer the question. He's going to lose control. You got to see this.
The Honourable Member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, I know for a fact that farmers are asking that minister to axe the carbon tax. That PM promised that the Senate would be independent, but the actions this past week prove that that is a complete farce. We know he bullied his senators. The PM himself was on the phone over the weekend telling them they had to gut Bill C-234. The Prime Minister lied, and his minions continue to lie about that.
Greg Fergus is away, so substitute House Speaker Chris D'Entremont has a real situation on his hands to deal with. How do you think it's going to go?
The honourable member who got here at the same time I did knows full well that you can't use that word. I would say the honourable member should retract that and apologize. The honourable member of Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, I will not apologize to that Prime Minister when he continues to lie about the carbon tax and the so-called independence of the Senate.
I'm asking the honourable member to apologize for the second time and retract that word. The honourable member knows full well you cannot use that word in this chamber.
Now, Damien Kirk's being given a second chance to apologize. Do you think he will?
So this is the last opportunity. The honourable member of Battle River Crowfoot, will you be retracting that?
It's the truth. It's the truth. I will not apologize to the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Keurig, would you mind leaving us today?
So what in the hell is going on, guys? How do we get out from underneath this rock that is the Trudeau Liberal government and cabinet? It's a disaster. WEF, they're just ruining our nation, tearing our people apart, dividing, distracting. It's hard to watch, guys, but we have to watch it. We have to get the word out. Yeah, so that pretty much is going to wrap up this video. I just want Canadians to see it. I know they can judge for themselves if they see it, that these Liberals are liars and they're deceiving Canadians all the time, distracting, dividing, messing with our heads, messing with our money, messing with our futures. and putting it on the back of climate change? What the hell? Doesn't make any sense. My name's Ehren. This is Question Period Canada, and we'll be bringing all the information that we can possibly find to show you how the Liberals are a bunch of lying, stealing scoundrels, and they're doing it trying to just hide behind the curtain that they're making for themselves. It's embarrassing. Like and subscribe. We are trying to have fun while we learn about Canadian politics. Right here, I'm Ehren. Try to stay warm and have something good to eat. We'll catch you next video. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, what's up? Ehren right here, Question Period Canada. I found this just like when I was doing my research or whatever I do here. I think it is something that you'll enjoy. I really did want to show it to you. It kind of proves that CHYSTIA Freeland is probably a witch.
Minister, have you seen our common sense conservative leaders' brilliant 15-minute documentary on the housing hell in Canada that's been viewed over 4 million times?
I am certainly familiar with the conservative scheme on housing. I haven't watched the video
Okay,
itself.
so I would strongly encourage that you do watch
it.
it, because it's a common sense conservative plan how to build more homes and outmove bureaucracy. And while you're at it, maybe like, share, and subscribe so others can see your common sense conservative plan on how to get housing fixed as well.
I'm happy to comment on the conservative scheme today. In fact,
your
very
government's
happy
housing
to.
agency, CMHC, says that 3.5 million additional homes need to be built in Canada by 2030 to restore housing affordability. Your housing agency, the same one, the head of that agency says that, it said 2 days ago at the Senate Finance Committee that your government has no plan to reach that number. In fact, in this committee, that same agency, your housing agency, says that that target is not attainable under current conditions because of high interest rates and because of higher costs that were caused by your government. In other words, your own housing agency has no faith in you or your government. If your own housing agency has no faith in you, why should Canadians?
Thank you for the question, Mr.
Thank you
Hallen.
for the question.
You asked me to comment on the conservative scheme on housing.
I didn't ask you to comment on that. I made a comment.
In fact, invited me to, so let me comment.
I'd like to hear an
First of all,
answer
I would point out...
Point of order. Point of order. Mr. Hallen, as he does every time the minister comes, asks a question or makes a statement, and then refuses to allow the minister to answer. And so, Mr. Chair, I would just ask we allow the minister to answer the question.
Vaughn Baker's a nut.
The minister and the other members of this committee, but also the folks at home who are watching who would like to hear the answers.
The question is about our department not having faith in you.
MP Hallen, I am going to ask, like it did happen the last meeting, a lot of crosstalk, you jumping in when you ask a question.
The question was not about the documentary. The question was about
you ask a question out of respect and out of respect to everybody that's here.
Minister, can you please answer why Canadians should have faith in you?
MP Hallen.
Even though your housing agency doesn't. That's the question.
MP Hallen.
I've asked my question.
MP Hallen. You asked a question, allow the witness to answer the question.
Come on.
The witness did not even have a nanosecond to answer your question.
Nanosecond?
Mr. Chair, not only is that irrelevant and untrue, and they're not answering the question, you shut me down by adjourning the meeting improperly.
Yeah.
So could you please let conservatives speak? I know you don't want to hear it as a liberal. I know you don't want to hear about the housing hell. And you should watch the video too, I might add.
MP Lawrence,
Chair, I'll ask my question again. Let's move on. I will ask my question again. It's my time, Chair. I will ask the question again.
In fact, actually,
Minister,
let me
your
just
housing
say,
agency
I believe that MP Hallen asked me a question. I certainly believe the point of this exercise has been to ask me a question. He offered quite a long preamble with lots of points embedded in it.
Why should Canadians have faith in you when your own agency doesn't?
If MP Hallen would like to hear a response.
Allow the witness, please, to answer the questions.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out that conservative senators have been reprimanded for bullying witnesses, and it would be terrible to have that kind of behavior.
Your Prime Minister has been reprimanded for bullying strong women in his own caucus for standing up to his corruption.
So let me now speak about housing. And let me first point out that there is an internal contradiction in what the Conservative members of this committee have done when it comes to voting and their purported scheme on housing. Actually, I believe that your votes are very relevant.
There has to be, you have to stop interrupting. Stop interrupting.
So I'll move on. I'll move on.
I haven't finished answering.
I'll move on. It's my time, and I only have
I'm afraid
time.
actually it's time for questions and answers, MP Howland. So I would like to answer.
Yeah, she's on to the next thing, right?
Exactly the reason why your non-answer proves why Canadians and your own housing agency has no faith in your government to meet the target.
Point of order.
What this proves is that the Conservatives do not want to actually listen to the answers. The point of order is.
This guy's great.
Excuse me. I have listened to you interrupt the minister and not allow her to speak. I have the right to make a point of order. Now I'm being interrupted and heckled during my point of order. Please, Chair, please, I'm asking you. Minister Freeland has the right to respond to the questions that are put to, and this is not. This is a point of order. Now I'm being heckled and interrupted during my point of order.
This is a breach of process.
This is.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
The witnesses have.
Okay.
Oh my goodness!
I can't, Chair. This is descended so badly now that I'm being interrupted during my point of order.
Yes. Okay, members. First off, stop the crosstalk. Okay, stop the crosstalk.
I'll move on.
The other thing is, MP Howland, MP Lawrence, any MP is we have interpreters here. You know, there's a lot of screaming going on. If members screaming into the mics, I think in my opening remarks I explained the danger, the health and safety to our interpreters.
Come on.
So I would ask, that is with crosstalk, that is with screaming, that is with not having respect.
There was no screaming, brother.
Room. I think that is what we want.
Point of order.
Yeah, we are looking for respect and decorum. Point of order.
Please don't crosstalk. And I did not. I raised my voice at a reasonable tone, and you did not recognize the last meeting. So that's why I have to raise my voice, because I'm hoping you'll hear me, Chair.
He's making a great point.
I can hear you, MP Lawrence.
Chair,
sometimes you need to be heard.
On to my next question.
And right then, the stream was cut off. Nothing more to show. I'm Ehren, Question Period Canada. CHYSTIA Freeland probably is a witch. Like and subscribe if you want to find out. We'll be looking into it. Have a great night. Catch the next video. Trudeau's very suspicious when you include the question with the answer.
On this file, and the Prime Minister's handpicked chair of the Green Slush Fund admitted last night that she tried to get $2.2 million of taxpayer money funneled to the Visharian Centre Vanity Project from the fund she chairs. Then she got the employees of the Slush Fund to get another $10 million for the Visharian Vanity Project from Liberal ministers. She took the money and ran. Visharian claimed that was being an entrepreneur. We're calling it grifting. Why does the Prime Minister let his Green Slush Fund chair abuse a taxpayer for personal gain?
That's Rick Perkins, an MP from Nova Scotia. Here's Trudeau's answer.
While we work to advance our ambitious climate action, the Conservative Party has no plan because fighting climate change simply doesn't matter to them.
That really is how Trudeau answered. Like and subscribe. Canadian Politics right here.
Budget Officer Yves Giroux, who joins me now. Sir, it's good to see you again.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
So you, I'm sure, have been watching what's been happening in the House of Commons. The conclusions in your report, they're being cited by the Conservatives in particular as proof that Canadians are worse off because of carbon pricing, and that means this policy needs to go. Is that a fair representation of your findings?
No problem, no more.
Well, it's a representation of our findings once you also include the economic impacts of introducing a carbon tax. So there's the fiscal impact on households, paying the tax versus the amount of the rebate that households are receiving. But once you also include the economic impacts due to the introduction of a carbon tax, for example, the reduction in activity or the slower growth in economic activity in some sectors, then that's the impact. But
Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Ehren. This is Question Period Canada. In this video, we're bringing you a battle royale that took place earlier in the week at the House of Parliament. Jagmeet Singh, PIERRE, Poilievre, Justin Trudeau. It's a three-way. Really, it's between Poilievre and Trudeau takes a whooping. Let's get into the video. To start off, it's PIERRE and Justin. Let's go.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister is not worth the cost or the division after 8 years, panicking under pressure from MPs in a region where he's plummeting in the polls, he'd paused the tax for some people in some places, but his minister said that other people should have voted Liberal if they wanted the same break. Now the panicking Prime Minister is further dividing the country with the confirmation from his Environment Minister that he's now in a coalition with the Bloc, the Separatist Party. So, we have a costly carbon tax coalition that includes the Separatists. What did he promise the Separatists to get them to sign on to keeping him in power for 2 more years?
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Only division in this country as to whether or not we should be doing everything we can to fight climate change is within the Conservative Party. The Canadians are unequivocal that we need to fight climate change and we need to support Canadians through that. That's why our price on pollution returns hundreds of dollars every 3 months to the average family of 4 while fighting climate change and watching our curve bend faster over the past 2 years than the other G7 countries. We will continue to hold Canadians together as we fight climate change while Conservatives continue to bring us backwards.
Hear, hear.
Maybe I built up the episode to be too much. That's just how it's starting. If you listen to Pierre's question, there's 15 or 20 barbs in there. Like it's all one big insult, but barbs on the insult. It's in it. You can go back and look. There are so many barbs. Do you understand what I mean? It elevates from here. It escalates.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's own Environment Commissioner confirmed he will not hit his own targets, and the Prime Minister has admitted that his carbon tax is not worth the cost for oil-heated homes. Now, he did that to save his political hide, but his desperation went one step further this week when he relied on the Separatists to vote with him to quadruple the tax on home heating for everyone else in Canada. So the question is very clear. What did he promise the Separatists to get their support to save his political hide and quadruple his tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, no matter how much the Conservatives try to deny it, every single day in this country, we get closer to never using coal to generate electricity again. And now, Mr. Speaker, we're choosing to phase out home heating oil, which is dirtier, more expensive, and disproportionately relied on by lower-income Canadians. The Conservatives may try to make up all the stuff they like, but the reality is replacing home heating oil is good for Canadians when we put in heat pumps, and that's exactly what we're doing.
I have to admit, Pierre's kind of funny. Like, so many insults, like, in his questions. He just fires at Trudeau really, really hard. In each sentence, there's 3 or 4 insults almost every second word. It's funny. Here's something interesting, though. Trudeau's always talking about reduction of coal and eliminating coal. Coal can't be eliminated. I looked it up. In Nova Scotia, these are the stats. Take a peek. Over 50% of our energy is generated from coal. So, you can't eliminate it. Like I was saying, it heats up, it escalates. Poilievre sets Trudeau off. Trudeau freaks out. Here it is.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after 8 years, he hasn't eliminated coal-fired electricity. He hasn't eliminated oil-powered heating in homes, and his carbon tax will not allow him to meet his own GHG targets, according to his Environment Commissioner. Now, that is the reality, that his carbon tax is not worth the cost. And that's why people, all 10 premiers, Conservative, Liberal, and NDP, are calling for him to take the tax off so Canadians will keep the heat on. Will he be fair to all Canadians, or will he sign on with the Separatists to divide our country some more?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I have to admit I'm a little worried for the Leader of the Opposition. When he has to stoop to bringing up the separatist boogeyman to try and scare Canadians, he must be running out of material. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are afraid of climate change. They're afraid of the extreme weather events. They're afraid of the concerns we have about a brighter future. And what we are doing is fighting climate change every day while we build a stronger economy with greater careers, while we support Canadians every single day with the high cost of living. This is what we're delivering. He has no plan to fight climate change, no plan for the future of the economy, no plan for Canadians.
So I wouldn't lie. Well, I would, but I didn't. Trudeau did freak out. After all of those insults, the questions from Poilievre was too much for him to handle. Up next, it's Jagmeet Singh. I don't know what he's thinking. Right here, he must forget that he's in bed with Trudeau. He's acting like they're not a part of a coalition government. It's weird. Here, check.
South. The Liberal and Conservative corporate coalition may strike again today. We put forward a plan to help Canadians with their home heating bill, to help Canadians tackle the climate crisis and make big oil and gas pay for it. Now, environmental organizations are on board, but climate delay liberals and climate deny conservatives will back the profits of big oil again. So how can the Prime Minister and the leader of the Conservative Party justify voting against this?
Hear, hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it was with confusion and consternation that I noted the way the NDP voted with the Conservatives against one of the most successful measures Canada has ever seen in the fight against climate change. Putting a price on pollution is exactly how we've managed to bend the curve on our emissions faster than other G7 countries over the past 2 years. How we are moving forward with global leadership on the fight against climate change. Seeing the NDP vote with the Conservatives against a price on pollution is something that has disappointed millions of progressives across this country.
Do you not find it peculiar to see those two arguing? Politics makes for strange bedfellows, I suppose. Poilievre's not going to let it go, and guess what? He's up next. He goes with Trudeau like 4 times in a row here.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Most tragic and heartbreaking to see these two squabbling in this way. The Prime Minister was so disappointed in the NDP leader's flip-flop on carbon tax for heat, but the good news for the Prime Minister is the NDP leader has flip-flopped on his flip-flop and now supports the Prime Minister's plan to quadruple the tax. This, with 2 million Canadians, a record-smashing number going to a food bank. Will the Prime Minister create another carve-out on the carbon tax for farmers so that Canadians can afford to eat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We know, Mr. Speaker, that farmers are always focused on being good stewards of the land, and we are working with them in investing, in supporting them in many different ways to ensure that we can continue to put good quality, affordable food on people's tables right across the country, and that's what we're going to continue to do, Mr. Speaker. Farmers and indeed Canadians from coast to coast to coast know that as we fight climate change, as we put more money in people's pockets every 3 months with hundreds of dollars with the pollution price return, we're going to continue to step up in building a strong economy for tomorrow, something the Conservatives simply don't understand.
So Poilievre's joke about Jagmeet and Trudeau scrapping, that was pretty funny. But he has points to make, and when Trudeau is talking, I'm not sure if he's trying to fool me or if he's trying to fool himself. He does it all the time. Poilievre's up again. Check this.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is quadrupling his carbon tax on the farmers who make the food, quadrupling the tax on the truckers who ship the food, therefore quadrupling the tax on all who buy the food. Good news is there is a common sense Conservative bill that's passed through the House and in the Senate where the Prime Minister's senators are holding it up. Will the Prime Minister once again cave and allow another carve out on the carbon tax for farmers? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Many people living in rural areas across the country, including many farmers, continue to be stuck heating their homes with home heating oil. It is dirtier, it is more expensive, and it is something that is expensive to replace. That is why, Mr. Speaker, we are stepping up with measures that are going to deliver heat pumps to families right across the country, the 1.2 million households across this country, in every part of this country, relying on home heating oil, so we can help them fight climate change and save money at the same time. That's our plan. The Conservatives have no plan.
I wonder if farmers do feel supported by Trudeau. If there was an election tomorrow, do you think that they would show Trudeau's support? I don't think so. Not many would. These days, it's tough. Anyways, it's going to be tough on Trudeau too. Poilievre is up again.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Our common sense plan is found in Bill C-234, which would give another carve-out to farmers on the carbon tax. And the Prime Minister has claimed that he won't cave again. He says there will be no more carve-outs. We're asking him to keep in mind there are 2 million people who have to go to the food bank every month because of his policies. Will he put his ego and pride aside and ask his Liberal senators to pass common sense bill C-324 to axe the tax and create a carbon tax carve-out for our farmers?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, farmers across this country know the costs of climate change. They know the costs of extreme weather events, whether it be floods or fires or more intense storms. Farmers are worried about their future, worried about their kids' future, worried about the country's future. That's why we put forward a plan that is reducing our emissions and growing our economy at the same time while putting more money in Canadians' pockets. The Conservatives have no plan to fight climate change, no plan for the future of the economy, no plan for future generations. We will continue to do what's necessary to support Canadians, including farmers, long into the future. That's it.
Right there's an example of what I'm talking about. Is he trying to fool me that he cares about farmers, or is he trying to fool himself that he cares about farmers? I don't really believe that he does, but maybe he thinks that he does? I don't know. Poilievre is up again, going at Trudeau.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister won't answer a simple question. It's about the common sense Conservative bill to carve out farming from the carbon tax. But I understand why he feels he's in a bind, because his Environment Minister said, as long as I am Environment Minister, there will be no more exceptions to carbon pricing. That implies that he would resign if there was another carve-out. Will the Prime Minister sacrifice his crazy carbon tax minister and support our common sense bill to take the tax off?
Speaker, I think we'll all be waiting for a long list of corrections and factual errors from the Leader of the official opposition if we go down this road. The fact of the matter, Mr. Speaker, for millions of Canadians who understand that climate change poses an existential threat to our country, to our well-being, to our economy, they need action. They expect a government with a plan. They expect a government to deliver on that plan, and that is exactly what we have been doing for 8 years. Meanwhile, the only plan the Conservatives put forward are cuts. Cuts to services, cuts to program, cuts to rebates for Canadians, and yes, cuts to the most successful measure to reduce climate change emissions that this country has ever seen. When is he going to come forward with a real plan?
Okay, I think Poilievre does have a plan. Say he didn't. Do you think that no plan is worse than a bad plan? I think a bad plan is worse than no plan. I don't know. Poilievre's up again.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It is crazy to quadruple the carbon tax on our farmers when 2 million people are going to a food bank every month. So now the Minister of the Environment has threatened to resign if there are new carbon tax carve-outs. We have a common sense Conservative bill that would carve out the carbon tax for farmers. All it needs is for the Prime Minister to give his senators permission to pass it. Will the Prime Minister please just cave at least one more time and allow a carve-out on the carbon tax for our farmers? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I won't use the word crazy, but I will say it is deeply, deeply irresponsible for the Conservative Party of Canada continue to deny that taking action against climate change is important, to continue to deny that climate change is a real threat to Canadians and to our economy. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, we have put forward measures that both fight climate change and put more money back in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadian families, and we're going to continue to fight climate change because the cost of inaction against climate change is far more than the cost of action.
So if you were the Prime Minister and everything out there was so expensive, inflation so bad, the economy so bad, everything just so tough, would you be using the word irresponsible and throwing it at someone else as an insult? I wouldn't. Poilievre is back. I'm sure he's not going to let Trudeau off the hook.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Tax isn't working. He's missed every single target. He's on track to miss his 2030 targets, and Canada is ranked 58th out of 63 on climate action. Mr. Speaker, the question is about our farmers. There's a bill C-234, a common sense Conservative bill to carve out farmers from the carbon tax. All it needs is for the Prime Minister to give his senators permission to adopt this carve-out. Will the Prime Minister stand up to his Environment Minister and stand up for farmers and let Bill C-234 pass and allow this carve-out to go ahead?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I will admit, it doesn't happen often, but every now and then I am a little bit envious of the position that the Leader of the Opposition finds himself in, of being able to criticize on the one hand that we aren't doing enough to fight climate change, and then on the other hand say that we need to stop everything we're doing to fight climate change. Fortunately, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are smarter than he takes them for. Canadians know the only way to build a strong economy for the future is to fight climate change at the same time. That is exactly what we are doing, and until he puts forward a plan that is responsible and real on fighting climate change and growing the economy, Canadians will continue to dismiss him.
That's right.
Okay, confession time. I voted for Trudeau in 2015. Was it a mistake? Maybe. I don't know. It seemed like a good option at the time, but these last 4 years especially have been ridiculous. I can't imagine that Trudeau doesn't know that a lot of the responsibility lays on his shoulders. It's the Prime Minister. Trudeau hardly comes to Parliament anymore anyhow, but he chose the wrong day to show up. Guess who's back? Pierre Poilievre, and he has another question full of insults for Trudeau.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This panicking Prime Minister is not worth the cost or the division after 8 years. He'd recently announced that he would pause his carbon tax on heat for some people in some places where he's plummeting the polls and his caucus is revolting. He claims this is not regional, but his own rural affairs minister said that if people on the prairies want the same pause, they should elect more Liberals. Can he confirm whether he endorses these comments or whether he condemns them?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Perhaps the Conservatives think that phasing out coal was divisive because some parts of the country had already phased out coal, and it only targeted the parts of the country that still rely on coal to generate electricity. Mr. Speaker, we are united in our desire to fight climate change as Canadians. We are united in our desire to support Canadians who need it through into a better future. That's why banning and phasing out home heating oil by replacing them with heat pumps right across the country is an approach that will unite Canadians. The only division is amongst Conservatives who still think that climate change is fake.
That's right.
don't want to be argumentative, but I've got this graph with these numbers on it that show that coal isn't being phased out. Not in Nova Scotia, at least. Not at all. I've said before that Trudeau freaks out a couple of times. Those are getting pretty close. They're coming up. One more piece, Poilievre asks, then Trudeau starts to lose it.
Stating falsehoods about our position will not distract from the original question. Here is the question. The Minister of Rural Development said that if people in the prairies wanted a pause on the carbon tax for home heat, they should elect more Liberals. Does the Prime Minister denounce these comments, or does he agree with them?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, tens of thousands of people across the prairies are getting the chance to replace their home heating oil with carbon, with thermopumps, with heat pumps, because we have put forward programs to help in that transition as we pause the price on pollution for people in the prairies who rely on home heating oil. Tens of thousands of them. We are there for people in the prairies who want to save thousands of dollars a year, who want to get heat pumps, who want to fight climate change. Why aren't the Conservatives there for those people?
Trudeau is starting to become unraveled. He's talking about free heat pumps again, unicorns, dragons, a bunch of things that don't exist. Poilievre is getting to him, and he's driving him to the edge. Trudeau's going to lose it here shortly.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We're there for all Canadians. But this is really troubling. We thought that perhaps it was a gaffe when his Liberal Rural Affairs Minister said that the prairies would have to elect more Liberals if they wanted a pause. And if this really is just a fair policy that applies evenly across the country, then why would you have to elect more of any particular party in your region to benefit from it? So I'll just give him one last chance. If he can't answer it, we'll assume that he agrees with her. Does he agree with his Rural Affairs Minister that if the prairies want a pause on the carbon tax paying, they have to elect more Liberals? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
No, Mr. Speaker, because people in the prairies who heat with home heating oil already are benefiting from a pause on the price of carbon, on the carbon price. That's because, Mr. Speaker, this pause that we put in applies right across the country. So the tens of thousands of Canadians in rural Canada, in the prairies, are going to be able to benefit from the transition to heat pumps. That is why, Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to step up, including in doubling the rural top-up on the carbon price rebate. We will continue to deliver for Canadians right across the country, and we will continue to be there for all Canadians, including women.
Right when Trudeau was getting fired up and going to deliver a big speech, he gets cut off by the House Speaker, Greg Fergus. I'm sure he didn't like that. He is going to take one more punch from Poilievre, and he's going to snap. Here it comes.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister only divides to distract. That's all he ever does when he gets into trouble. He divides people along every possible battle line. He did that with the carbon tax carve-out for only some in a region where his support is plummeting and his caucus is revolting. And for 10 days, he refused to condemn the comments of his own Liberal minister who said this policy was applying based on how people voted. And now he signs on with the separatists to divide Canadians again. Will he, instead of dividing Canadians, reverse the policies that are driving them to the food bank?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we see the Conservatives' approach to partisan politics and to personal attacks. The reality is, when we stood with the 80 to 90% of Canadians who chose to get vaccinated, they called us divisive. When we chose to stand with women across this country who want to control their own bodies, they called us divisive. When we stand with the 2 LGBTQI+ kids who are being discriminated against in schools across this country, they call us divisive, Mr. Speaker. I ask Canadians, who are dividing Canadians more than Conservatives with their attacks, with their choices, with their politics?
I told you he was going to lose it, and he lost it. It's fun watching politicians lose control, and he just lost control. Up next, Jagmeet's back, and it doesn't get easier for Trudeau. Jagmeet forgets that they're bedfellows. They're in a coalition together. He goes at him about housing.
Burnaby South. People are struggling to find a home they can afford. And this federal government has the power, the land, and the resources to end the housing crisis. On one side, we've got the corporate-controlled conservatives that want to sell off our public land to their rich investor friends. That helps no one. But on the other side, we've got liberals who are openly admitting that their plan is to use public lands to build luxury homes. How can this Prime Minister justify using public lands to build homes that people can't afford?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that's simply not true. We know Canadians are worried about paying their rent, finding an apartment, or buying a home. That's why we're working on affordable housing and affordable housing affordability right across the country. It's why we put forward the Affordable Housing and Groceries Act, which helps build more affordable apartments by cutting the GST on construction. Housing advocates and developers have described this move as a game changer that will get more affordable housing built. It's why it's essential that all members work with us to move these important measures forward.
Someone must have slipped Trudeau a Xanax, because he recovered well. He calmed down after freaking out at Poilievre, took that Jagmeet question, his old coalition buddy, no problem. Bad news for Trudeau, Poilievre's back, and I think he's pushing buttons.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, with or without glasses, I will not lose $54 million on an app that doesn't work. Now, this is a Prime Minister whose government is now under RCMP investigation for giving out contracts to firms that did absolutely no work. Now senior members of the bureaucracy are blowing the whistle and saying his top officials lied about it before committee. Will the Prime Minister personally cooperate with the police in this latest criminal investigation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can't help but wondering how many millions of dollars Canadians would have lost if they had followed the Leader of the Opposition's advice and bought Bitcoin so they could opt out of inflation. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to serious matters, both the RCMP and CBSA's Professional Integrity Division are investigating. The CBSA has also launched an internal audit to look into contracting at the agency and has increased oversight processes when it comes to the contracting.
I figure that Poilievre must think that he's beaten Trudeau up so badly that it's just time to start making fun of him. All the rest of this is just clever insults when he's asking the questions, and he does it a few times.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the former director of CBSA, our principal border authority, said that he felt incredibly threatened, those were his words, by the former president of the organization. And senior bureaucracy, members of the Prime Minister's bureaucracy, are to have lied, according to this testimony, in order to cover up this $54 million scandal. The matter is now under Auditor General and RCMP investigation. Will the Prime Minister cooperate with the police, yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, obviously the reports coming out are extremely concerning, and I know that the respective authorities will be taking this extremely seriously. We expect our professional public servants to always conduct themselves with utmost integrity, and I'm sure that will continue to happen.
By now, Poilievre is just making it look easy. Have mercy on Trudeau, or don't. It's funny to watch him insult him like that. Here's a little more.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, the entire government only takes direction from a guy who has 2 convictions for breaking the law, Mr. Speaker. And in this case, it's not just $54 million. There's $11 million given to a two-person IT firm to do absolutely nothing. The same firm has gotten $60 million from this Liberal government since 2017 alone. The entire matter is under criminal investigation. So for a third time, will the Prime Minister personally cooperate with the police, yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You can understand that I won't take overly seriously the accusations from an individual who was Minister of Elections when he was found to break elections law. Mr. Speaker, when we see matters of wrongdoing, we ensure that proper authorities are looking into it, and of course our government will always ensure full cooperation with investigating authorities.
Hear, hear.
I don't think Poilievre liked the cryptocurrency joke that Trudeau made earlier because he is coming back with so many insults that are a little meaner this time. It's so funny. He's not done yet.
L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Recording of a top Liberal government official reveals that the $1 billion green fund the Prime Minister is running is not worth the cost or the corruption. Some extracts from that recording. It was free money, sponsorship level kind of giveaway. And I quote, since the Prime Minister learned of these allegations in March, he hasn't fired a single solitary person. This is a $1 billion slush fund. Is he worried about firing the insiders because he doesn't want them to blow the whistle on this broader Liberal scandal?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, earlier this year, ISED was made aware of allegations of mismanagement at SDTC. The Auditor General has now decided to conduct an audit of SDTC, and our government has been working closely with them on this and welcomed the decision. In addition, SDTC has agreed to enable a thorough third-party review of the allegations regarding HR management, and we're committed to ensuring organizations which receive federal funding adhere to the highest standards of governance.
What kind of a beating would you call this? I'd call it an arse whooping. Trudeau really is getting it handed to him. Poilievre is not taking his foot off the gas. Pedal to the metal.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This is a $1 billion taxpayer-funded slush fund that top officials now say amounts to a sponsorship scandal kind of corruption. It says they were giving away free money. This at a time when a record-smashing 2 million people are forced to food banks every month, when 9 out of 10 people can't afford homes. How could the Prime Minister have thought it appropriate to blow $1 billion when Canadians cannot afford to eat, heat, or house themselves?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to be perfectly clear. Any allegation of wrongdoing in any government department must be fully investigated. There are established processes for situations such as these, and this is precisely why the Auditor General has made the decision to conduct an audit. This is a serious situation, and we are taking it with the seriousness with which it requires. Unfortunately, the Conservatives, as usual, are looking for a way to score cheap partisan points. We are going to continue to govern responsibly.
Imagine being in charge and you blow $1 billion. You screw up another $54 million. Oh, there's so many scandals, it's ridiculous. Poilievre keeps going. There's more.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
There's nothing cheap about losing $1 billion, Mr. Speaker. That's exactly why he's not worth the cost. He sees no problem throwing away $54 million on an ArriveCan app that didn't work and we didn't need and is now under criminal investigation. And now, 6 months after he learned of corruption, cronyism, and mismanagement in this $1 billion fund, he has kept his hand-picked cronies in the position. Mr. Speaker, if he really thinks it's serious that this $1 billion fund had so much corruption, why won't he fire the people running it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is a country of rules and laws, and that's why we need to make sure that we are doing proper investigations and ensuring appropriate consequences for any people involved in wrongdoing. This is how a country of laws and rules functions. Unfortunately, Conservatives are still choosing to make cheap partisan points on very serious issues, and we're going to continue to take these issues seriously.
Here, here.
When you're making a video like this, you see the clips many times. You become familiar with the content. By now, I'm starting to feel a little sorry for Trudeau. I think he is delusional. But also, I'm frustrated because there's so many questions that need to be answered, and they're not being answered. Poilievre keeps going.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The United Kingdom's Foreign Office has given travel advice to its citizens, which reads the following. The risk of terrorist attacks happening in Canada is very likely. End quote. Does the Prime Minister agree with the UK Foreign Office's assessment? And what is he doing to protect Canadians from such an attack?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a robust and sophisticated process around determining levels of threats to Canadians. We elevated the level of threat back in 2012 to medium, and it stays there right now. We are continuing to make sure we're doing everything we possibly can to keep Canadians safe. We understand these are trying times around the world right now, but the best thing we can do as Canadians is stay true to our values, be respectful of one another, feel each other's pain, and be there to support through very difficult times of a rise in hatred, including Islamophobia and anti-Semitism.
We're getting to the end of it now, but it's not looking good. These questions are starting to get scary. Those questions about terrorism, I wonder if there's any more of those.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Terrorists are not interested in feeling other people's pain. They're interested in causing other people pain. And the UK Foreign Office has said, and I quote, the risk of terrorist attacks happening in Canada is very likely, end quote. Yet the Canadian government rates that risk at medium. Why the difference?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, obviously I can't speak to how other countries make their determinations on travel advisories, but I can say that the work is done daily in Canada to assess the threat level to Canadians and what can be communicated to keep them safe. We elevated the threat level to medium in 2014, Mr. Speaker, and it has remained at that level since. But every single day, we reevaluate and ensure that we are doing everything we can, privately and publicly, to keep Canadians safe.
Thank you.
All right, gang, you've done great. This has been a hard beating to watch. There's only one question left, but here's something. If Trudeau's the only thing that's keeping us safe from terrorism in Canada, I'm nervous about terrorism in Canada. This is the last question, and then we'll wrap up. One more. It's probably about terrorism. Let's hear what he has to ask.
The Opposition.
And yet, if you simply read the UK Foreign Department's assessment of Canada, and I quote, the risk of terrorist attacks happening in Canada is very likely, end quote, then there is a very serious risk, Mr. Speaker. Why did Canadians have to learn from a foreign government about an increasing threat of terrorism in Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, once again, I can't speak to how the UK makes its determinations, but I certainly can say that in Canada we have top security agencies and officials who work daily to reassess the threat levels to Canadians. They are working every single day to keep Canadians safe, and will continue to keep Canadians informed on the best ways to keep safe, Mr. Speaker.
Here.
So that brings our video to a close. It's been a lot of fun. That was quite a beating to watch. So many great questions, not a lot of great answers. Trudeau flipped out there a couple of times. He really lost it once. It was pretty fun to watch. Like and subscribe. We're having fun with Canadian politics. All right, gang. thank you all for watching. We are going to wrap it up. So we will try to have something a little fresher tomorrow. I think that was fun to watch. I had a good time. Those are some of my videos that I've made in the past that I enjoy watching them. Like, and it's funny to see as I'm learning more about the politics, how the videos maybe get a little bit better. I'm just more informed. Lightning Rod probably doesn't think so. Maybe she thinks that I'm filled with misinformation, and that could be the case. Who knows? Anyhow, guys, thank you so much for hanging out, enjoying the chat room. Everybody, it's awesome. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. So, again, it's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or pardon me, Atlantic Standard Time is the time we start. So 2 p.m. in the East and noon in Alberta and 11 in British Columbia. So that's it. I don't think we have a lot of people in Quebec that are watching. Maybe we have some, but I don't know. Anyhow, we're going to wrap up, going to get going. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll be back, like I say, here at Question Period Canada, learning about these corrupt Canadian politics. Like, we need an election, guys. It's as simple as that. Gonna get going. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Thank you all for hanging out. Have a good afternoon and evening.